Since time immemorial, humanity has been plagued by questions. One man is on a mission to find the answers, and that man is...
Oh, fuck. Come on, I'm so close. Hello, I'm Toby, and as with every Monday to Sunday evening, I'm going to be looking at sex, and why it's very literally fucking everywhere. On our screens,
Check out the hot single women in your area.
in the streets, and even in our schools. So join me as we thrust deep into discovery, come together in the end, and hopefully clean up a few misconceptions along the way. In this, the incomplete guide to everything about sex. I'm here in sex capital of the world, Luton, to uncover the hard facts. Here, late at night, the streets are filled with desperate customers looking for sexual roleplay. Lightning bolts! Lightning bolts! Statistics suggest that sex is the leading cause of teenage pregnancy, STDs and sore cock. Disturbing graphics like these might make you say, bollocks. Latest research suggests that sexual addiction might be hereditary.
We've discovered that you're more likely to develop a sexual dependency if your parents had sex before you were born.
Through insightful research, I've discovered that sex has existed for over thousands of years. But I suppose the first question to tackle is, what is sex? I've been asked to come here to the University of Bedfordshire as part of the Helping Underprivileged Groups education campaign, unifying and teaching scheme, to teach a classroom of unwanted bastards about sex. Look at these vulnerable children we didn't get permission to film. You might think innocence is bliss until a random stranger needs somebody to perform mouth-to-mouth on his shy pet pocket snake.
I think it's very important that children understand sex and the ins and outs of it, and ins and outs, and ins and outs, and ins and outs, and ins and outs, and ins and outs.
When a man loves a hole very much, his tinky winky becomes erect, which he then inserts into the woman's la-la.
And ins and outs, 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 and ins and outs.
He begins to pound her hard and fast up against a wall, a bed, or even a desk, often groping her dipsies whilst she puts her finger up his po hole, and that's for a sexual stimulation.
I never learnt about sex when I was younger, but my dad always taught me that sex was the worst mistake of his life, and I thought, wow, sex must be awful.
Lastly, he shoots his Teletubby custard all up inside her, and sits back and watches Nunu clean it all up.
I think we've made a really positive impact because we don't want kids to be scared of physical intimacy.
So remember, gents, have loads of sex, get mad, respects. And for you ladies, you need to remember that length is a strength, but girth is what it's really worth.
I often find that kids learn about sex better with a hands-on approach. That's a little sex education joke right there. No, I haven't. I mean, I wouldn't. I really...
And remember, if there's one thing to take away from today, it's anal is a whole lot of fun. Of course, the explanation I gave was sex between a man and a woman. You know, like God intended. Except for the Virgin Mary, who gave birth to Jesus at the age of 14. Don't reckon you'd get many Christian parents saying that's also what God intended, but hey, things were different back then. Sex actually plays an integral part of ancient history and mythology. I've prepared a few fantastic fuck fables throughout mythology for your viewing pleasure. In Egyptian mythology, the god Osiris was cut to pieces by his brother Set and scattered across the land. Distraught about his death was his wife/sister Isis. It's always nice to have a close family bond with Isis.
She nearly gathered all of his body, apart from one piece, his most important piece, his godly cock. After making one out of clay, she breathes life into his body by sucking off his clay penis. And that brings Osiris back to life. Did you know that in ancient Egypt, wearing red lipstick was a sign of loving blowjobs? What a beautiful culture.
Despite our history of sexual discovery, hundreds of years ago, if you weren't heterosexual, you could end up being beaten off or even hung. Thankfully, homophobia ended after America voted in the first male president to have inappropriate relations with another man.
In modern society, it's perfectly acceptable to be bang brothers or scissor sisters. However, there's still a stigma when it comes to talking about sex.
So I've decided to talk to members of the public about members of the pubic.
You're probably tired of hearing me talk all the time, so let's see what the people on the street have to say. Hi, sorry, do you have a minute to talk about sex? Hi, sorry, do you have a minute to talk to me about sex? Sorry, do you have a minute? Shit.
I have an idea, okay? I can't guarantee we'll get a good grade, but we'll cut that and we'll start from...
You're probably tired of hearing me talk all the time, so let's see what the people on the street have to say. I like women who show a little bit more ankle. In the eyes of God, all those who follow the word of the Lord are beautiful. I myself love a woman with massive tits.
Speaking on behalf of all straight women, I have to say the most attractive feature a man can have is a mole on his chin.
Best thing about my wife is she's also my sister. A troubled woman approached me at the end of service. She got on her knees and said, "God, please come before me." I think I misread the situation. My wife Agnes, she says to me the other day, "The weather today is atrocious." I say, "Out of your mouth is naught but poppycock." She must have misheard me, because she thought I said, "Open your mouth and pop in my..."
Well, not necessarily sexual, but it was quite embarrassing this one time. I'd go out in public wearing a woman's wig.
Well, it was pretty embarrassing when my second cousin caught me in bed with my first cousin. See, the joke's funny, right? Because like a slice of cheese, Americans are excessively inbred. Oh, probably Margaret Thatcher. She was quite a bewitching woman. Yes, I realise she's an unmoving corpse. You should see my wife in bed. Oh, I'd absolutely pick my wife, sister.
Probably this man.
Thank you, general public, for your fascinating opinions. Let's just go to the next segment. Fuck it.
It's a good thing that people in Luton are very tolerant people. Our favourite Greek god Zeus was having an affair with a mortal woman named Semele. Unfortunate name. She then became pregnant. If only he'd been wearing a Trojan condom. Sure I did that. Zeus's wife Hera was fairly pissed, so she disguised herself and spoke to Semele, told her to ask Zeus to truly come before her as a god, as proof of his divinity. Zeus did so. However, looking upon a god made Semele burst into flames. She exploded, basically. Horrible death, actually. Whoops. Zeus rescued the unborn child inside of her, somehow sewing the fetus into his thigh and then giving birth to him when he was fully matured. Somehow. They had to cut that entire scene from the Disney film Hercules. However, I'm sure you can find similar clips online. And that beautiful story brings me to my next topic, pornography.
With such ease of access to sexual material, it's any wonder people wank away their free time until they realise they actually need to do something with their lives. I had a chance to speak to a man who was recovering from an addiction to pornography, who chose to remain anonymous.
Thank you for coming.
No worries, although please don't say come in. Anything sexual just triggers me.
My apologies.
Thank you.
How did your problem start?
Well, it started pretty innocent enough really, just a simple Google search of boobs, then big boobs, then big boob nipples.
And how did it become an addiction?
You just said come.
My apologies.
And dick.
My apologies.
Thank you. I realised it became a problem when porn took up most of my day. I mean, I have a 2 terabyte wank bank on my computer.
And how did it affect your relationships?
Well, I had a girlfriend at the time, and she was upset I was looking at other women. When I explained to her that sometimes I photoshopped her face onto porn stars, I mean, she was even more upset about that.
Women can be very hard to please.
You're not so hard.
My apologies.
Thank you. Suddenly, everything I saw became sexual. I couldn't order a pizza or even call in a plumber without the sex trauma. I mean, I'd be worried they would turn up with an extra large sausage pizza or even clean my pipes or maybe even have sex with me.
You had a lot of problems, but you were eventually able to beat it. Sorry, overcome it. Sorry, defeat it.
Actually, can you not mention feet?
My apologies.
Thank you.
Sorry, I must seem like such a dickhead. Arsehole. Twat. Fool. I must seem like an absolute fool.
No worries. Although when you say fool, it makes you think of fooling around.
Fuck.
My apologies.
Thank you. Heartbreaking stories like these can make you sad, but still, don't beat yourself up about it. Indra was considered the king of the Hindu gods and always fancied a shag, like every god, apparently, except for the boring Christian one. He lusted for the wife of the great sage Gautama. Whilst the sage was away, Indra disguised himself as Gautama and had sex with his wife. Upon returning and realising that God fucked his wife, he cursed Indra to sprout 1,000 vaginas across his entire body. Gautama was understandably a bit upset. I mean, he just saw God fuck his wife. But, you know, most people tend to overreact with only one vagina. Guys, because one vagina is overreact. Indra went into hiding, and when the other gods found him, he was covered head to toe in a full body menstruation. The gods were absolutely disgusted with that. I mean, it's just grim. So they turned all of the vaginas on his body into eyes, thus giving Indra the title of the 1,000-eyed god. Now that's what I call a period drama. Fucking grim. Anyways, don't you think adverts use sex a bit too bloody much? For blokes, it's things like deodorant or aftershave. On one hand, you've got adverts of a slovenly git made to symbolise you, the audience, who then sprays himself with a magic formula, and before you can say causes skin irritation, knock knock, what's at the door? It's a legion of beautiful women wanting sex. Of course, adverts like these don't really work so well anymore because of the newly found notion that women are apparently people. So they had to take a different approach. Now instead, you have suave, sophisticated cunts flaunting about the place like a peacock with a pea-sized cock, made to symbolise you, the audience, or what you could become if you started using odeur de semen. Stand out, smell like cum. Because you'll never be successful without the right aftershave, mouthwash, car, hair gel, clothes, shoes, socks. How are you going to be successful without the right socks? Women have it great too. Spray yourself with some fancy French and you'll have men falling for you, wanting to have sex with you like the objects they are. It's not sexist, it's empowering. And all these messages are played again and again, on repeat, anywhere you go, everywhere you look, anywhere you think. You'll never find a partner if you don't look perfect like in the adverts, if you aren't talented like the people that actually matter. Until your self-esteem is entirely dependent on how much you get laid. And because you don't have the courage, you'll never end up with the woman of your dreams. All because you weren't wearing the right fucking socks! Well, I hope we've all learned a little something from our sexploration we've had together. Got a little dark towards the end there, so I thought I'd wrap things up with a little joke for you. Why was the guitar tutor arrested? Because he was caught fingering a minor. Guys, I don't know about... Join me next episode, where I'll be discussing war, the dreaded history, and asking what is it good for, and hopefully having fun along the way.
And places like they actually shoot babies for fun.
Anyways, I've got stuff to do now, so until next time, cheerio.